Shalom. All praises to the Heavenly Father. Hatun Apukuya. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, their Kadeshwe. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe. In the name of Hamashiach, Matzah the Lamb, unification to the nation. So guys, I'm going to try my absolute best with this video. Hopefully it's not too long. I don't know if my phone will be able to take a long video, but I'm going to have to try because I really want to get this information out. This is very, very important, and it's going to answer a lot of questions. So let's get right into it. And I apologize, my presentation is not A1. I'm going to try my best on this phone. So Thoth, we've discussed Thoth before, and if you guys don't know, I pretty much say that Thoth is actually Enoch. He is also known as Hermes. He's known as Itzamna by the Mayans. Now, Thoth, as he was known to the Greeks, also known to the Egyptians as Tahuti, is a deity and an ascended master who was once a priest king of Atlantis. He is normally portrayed as a man with the head of an ibris in his nether depiction. In Egypt, Thoth was known as the god of magic, wisdom, art, sciences, the measure of time, and writing. So, as I've said, guys, I believe Thoth was Enoch. Okay, but pay attention to what was just said. He was a priest king of Atlantis, right? Atlantis. Atlantis, Eden, and the swastika, a theosophical argument. The fictitious pseudo-historian Atlantis of Brassier, or whoever that is, has had a long and ignominious influence on the word. I came across a bizarre argument from 1914 and 1915 that the swastika is proof of the existence of Atlantis, and that Atlantis is therefore also the Garden of Eden from the Bible. For the 4 branches of the swastika symbolizes the 4 rivers of Eden. Now, that's all I really wanted to read because that's very, very true. The swastika does represent the 4 rivers of the Garden of Eden. And that is why Atlantis was also called the Isle of Aryan. I haven't been able to make this video yet because, my laptop crashed. But we were the Aryans of ancient India, the Ikshvaku kings, right? That's who the Israelites were. Absolutely. Not all of them, because all Aryan means is noble one, so anyone could be an Aryan. Anyone who comes from the Isle of Atlantis is going to be an Aryan. So if there happens to be a invading class of people who invades Atlantis, then they, as well as the original inhabitants of Atlantis, they're both going to be quote-unquote Aryans, right? So I just wanted to mention that. Atlantis, what is this called? And the Antediluvian World. I have this book. I believe it's in my library. But anyway, what proof have we that the Egyptians were a colony from Atlantis? Now, I'm not sure what they mean by Egyptians. I don't know if they mean the Egypt over there and whatever artifacts they find over there, or they're talking about the ancient Egyptians. I'm not really sure. But let's go into it. They claim descent from the 12 great gods, which must have meant the 12 gods of Atlantis, to wit, Poseidon and Cleito and their 10 sons. So when I first saw that, I was thinking, what 12 could that be talking about? Could that be possibly talking about the 12 tribes of Israel? Because people who actually study the Mayans, they say out their own mouths, and Kermail shares this all the time, that Egypt over there must have been a colony from the Mayans. That's what they said. But the Mayans, they came from somewhere, from a sunken land. So the Mayans, they came from somewhere. The Egyptians came from somewhere. Let's continue. According to the Bible, the Egyptians were descendants of Ham, who was one of the 3 sons of Noah who escaped from the deluge, to wit, the destruction of Atlantis. The great similarity between the Egyptian civilization and that of the American nations. 5. The fact that the Egyptians claimed to be red men. The religion of Egypt was preeminently sun worship, and Ra was the sun god of Egypt. Rama, the son of the Hindus. Rana, a god of the Toltecs. Rami, the great festival of the sun of the Peruvians. Rayam, a god of the Yemen. The presence of pyramids in Egypt and America. The Egyptians were the only people of antiquity who were well informed as to the history of Atlantis. The Egyptians were never a maritime people. That's not true at all. And the Atlanteans must have brought that knowledge to them. They were not likely to send ships to Atlantis. So that's what I wanted to read. Let's move on. Now, you guys know, if you don't, this is Hathor. This is the god Hathor. Right? This is Hathor. Some people believe that this was the wife of Joseph that they're depicting. I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. But notice what did they put when I'm looking up Hathor on Pinterest, and of course they have this here. Why? Because this is a sunken city under Lake Titicaca. If you guys don't know, Lake Titicaca is in Bolivia and Peru. It is in the Altiplano, the highest point pretty much in the world. It's the highest land to the sky in the whole world. And what they found here is pretty much a symbol of Hathor in this underground city. Is this not Egyptian that they're finding? See, they've kept this very, very hush-hush because they will see things like this and they'll say, well, this must have been some sort of strange pre-Incan civilization, and just don't even talk about it. Does this look pre-Incan or does this look quote-unquote Egyptian? Okay. Hathor is one of the most famous goddesses of ancient Egypt. She was known as the Great One of many names, and her titles and attributes are so numerous that she was important in every area of the life and death of the ancient Egyptians. Skipping down, there is no doubt that her worship was well established by the Old Kingdom, as she appears with Bastet in the Valley Temple of Khafre at Giza. Hathor represents Upper Egypt and Bastet represents Lower Egypt. Now that is a whole video on itself with Bastet and the cat beings and whatever. Like, I already told you guys that I believe that Lower Egypt was on the east coast of North America, and Upper Egypt was in the Pacifics, stretching to South America. So that's where I believe so-called Egypt was and is. Excuse me. Whoops. So I think we're back at the swastika. I don't know if I wanted to read anything here. No, I was just looking up some more stuff. Let's move on. Ancient city discovered under Lake Titicaca. So this sunken city was discovered under Lake Titicaca. You know, they're saying that it had to do with the Tiwanaku culture, which was the very first culture of the Altiplano. The Altiplano was said to be the most populated place in South America. That was an origin point, the Altiplano. Let's continue. I don't need to read that. Just looking up other stuff. Where on the surface of the Earth, is the vertical component of the Earth's magnetic field 0? That is called the magnetic equator. It's the dividing line between the red and blue below. Now, we've gone over this before, but where is this? If you guys can't see, the green line is the 0 point. So the magnetic equator is along this green line, right? Now, one thing I've noticed is that the green line is pretty consistent on one side of the world, but on another side of the world, it gets lumpy, especially when it gets to the area of Peru. I wonder why that is. Why is the land, or why is the magnetic field lumpy over there? Because that is a pole, that is a center point. Moving along. The mountain temple is the most grandiose, but also the most widely diffused form of ancient religious architecture. This type of structure is to be found all over the world, virtually unchanged except obviously for widening differing styles and techniques peculiar to each race of people. Hundreds of steeped pyramids raise their massive structures from the plains of Mexico and the United States, Honduras, Guatemala, Peru, Chile, Mesopotamia, throughout Africa and India, as well as Indonesia, Indochina, China, and Europe itself. They are to be found even in Polynesia. The mountain temples expressed symbolically the beliefs and connected with the gods that were supposed to inhabit them. This symbolism was evident in the dispositions and decorations and the furnishings. They were the faithful representation. They were the faithful representation of the cosmic mountain or sacred mountain or Meru, situated in a no better identified center of the world, almost always named the navel of the world, where the gods had their abode from which they ruled time and space. The mountain temple is often to be found in the center of a city near to the royal palace, thus expressing materially the center of the universe in which the king resides, being the agent on earth of the gods, or the high priest. Upon the walls of the shrine are figures which show scenes from the lives of the gods and their deeds, as well as those of the sovereign, while all around there are statues and divinities and deceased rulers. This layout is to be found exactly as described here throughout the centuries since sacred texts call for it, but also because it was too charged with magic powers to be deliberately altered. Let me see. What these great temples are, the very same people who built them have told us they are the image of the sacred mountain, from which the gods control the destiny of the world. It is clear that all the mountain temples, in whatever part of the world they exist, were inspired by a unique model, which couldn't be none other than the sacred Mount of Atlantis, the political and religious heart of the world of the time, being the royal palace of the temple of Poseidon. In the following, Plato's long and detailed description is the best proof of it. Near the plain, at the center, there was a hill, low on all sides. Poseidon, in order to fortify the hill, broke it down all around, and there placed alternatively greater and lesser walls of earth and seawater. 2 of earth, and 3 mounts of seawater, which described almost a circle from the center of the island, putting them down at equal distances on every side, so that there was no access for men. Beginning at the sea, they led to the last wall, a canal 3 pleaters wide, 100 feet deep, 50 stadia long, which gave access to ships from the sea up to that wall as in a port, with the entrance enlarged so that the largest ships could enter, and the earth walls that separated the sea mounts cut across them along the bridges, so much that triremes could pass one at a time, and they were roofed so that ships could sail underneath, because the edges of the earth walls were sufficiently elevated above sea level. I don't need to read the whole thing, bro. Let me see. But I'm trying to get to where he's talking about Atlantis. All the mountain temples in the world have a structure more or less similar to that described by Plato. The only discrepancy would be the location of the royal palace. The philosopher puts it on the second step of a hill on which top there is the temple, while in the case of the mountain temples, it is never placed with the enclosure of the pyramid, but is always found in the near vicinity, outside the outermost external wall. This variation is due to obvious practical reasons, since the king, unlike a stone idol, needed much greater space to accommodate the large number of people who made up his court. So this place that he's describing, this quote-unquote pyramid, is not just a pyramid, it is a city. It is a dwelling place. Okay? Let me see. The existence of mountain temples all over the world is an excellent proof in favor of the theory that Plato's Atlantis really existed, and that all the ancient civilizations have their origin on it. Hold on, something got my eye. Plato is not the only one who described the holy mountain of Atlantis, with its temple on the top and the town around it. Incredible as it could seem, a much more detailed and precise account than Plato's has come to us, so much that on its basis the temple can be reconstructed room by room, meter by meter. This account was written 2 centuries before the Greek philosopher by a character who had completely different culture, sources, and objectives. It was on the 6th century BC in Babylon. A slave population was dreaming about going back to its country, Palestine, reconstructing its own kingdom and rebuilding the temple which had been destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar a few years earlier. As always, during the most critical phases of his history, this people generated a prophet, Ezekiel. He was a well-educated person who had access to the Babylonian royal household and temples. In the ancient Great Babylonian culture, he found the principles to prepare the restoration of his people. It has to be reminded that Mesopotamia is an area where the remembrance of the flood was kept in the most vivid and precise way. Anyway, he is pretty much saying that the second temple, how it was described, is literally and even in more detail than how Plato described this holy temple, or this holy mountain temple, which is actually Mount Zion. So after Nebuchadnezzar destroyed pretty much Mount Zion and Solomon's temple, after he destroyed that, Ezekiel, he tried to reconstruct this temple. Now, the reason why he's saying that, the Hebrews pretty much got the inscriptions and blueprint for this temple mountain is because they got it from the older Babylonians. But what he doesn't realize, and this is what many people don't realize, is that the children of Israel do not originate in the Middle East, right? So he thinks, all right, well, the only way that they could know this, is if, sorry, I got distracted by the notification. The only way they could know this is if they got it from an older culture. But what if their culture is just as, if not older? What if the Hebrews came from this real Temple Mountain? What if they're not basing it off of something frivolous or something that they heard or something that they read? What if they actually lived there? What if, right? And you know what this is just saying? You know what this is saying right now? That Jerusalem is Atlantis. Jerusalem is Atlantis. Jerusalem was Atlantis. It's in the same area or it's the same place. So I'm going to leave this link in the description. There's a very good article. Outstanding. Let me see. Atlantis, the center of the world, and Sardinia. So Atlantis, it seems to have been known as the center of the world. I want to read one part of this. Of course, they're putting Sardinia as Atlantis instead of America, but it is what it is. Let me try to find where it said, where this person put that Atlantis was the center. Plato tells us that going towards the north from the Pillars of Hercules, where ships were risking of running aground, there was a great sea, and northern of that sea was Atlantis, an island blessed with all gifts, clear waters, precious metals, luxuriant vegetation. Now, what the hell else could he be talking about? A place beyond the Pillars of Hercules that has all these precious metals and luxuriant vegetation. I mean, I don't know what else he's talking about. Some people, I don't know, man. Because they'll see this and they'll totally ignore America and they'll say, it must be Sardinia. Like, what? Like, what the hell? Let me see. But Atlantis was at the center of the world. See, if there's another. I just wanted to read that. Now, I don't know. I'm really not sure where people get that Atlantis was the center of the world. I'm guessing that they're drawing the comparison with Plato's writings. But I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know. I haven't really been able to find that. Now, more interesting stuff. Let me see what I wanted to read. We see depicted the most important places in the world, real and mythological. The earthly paradise with its 4 rivers, Mount Ararat with Noah's Ark, the Ganges, the mountains of China, the land of Persia, Egypt, and the Nile crocodiles. France, including Paris, England, Scotland, Rome, Venice, etc. Let me see. These are all a bunch of old maps, right? And you'll notice that maps, they change based on pretty much the map maker. They're going to look however they're going to look based on the map maker. So wherever they're putting the center of the world is based on their lack of knowledge, pretty much. So that's why I don't take their prime meridians or anything like that seriously. This map right here, it says this person Barberio implied that this drawing depicts Atlantis, then Antarctica. In it, he recognized the dense network of channels similar to that described by Plato. What it is instead is one of the common medieval depictions made according to the tripartite scheme Asia, top, Europe, bottom left, Africa, bottom right. The world is centered on Jerusalem, surrounded by ocean, beyond which it depicts the 12 winds. We notice many fortified cities: Rome, Athens, Istanbul, Nazareth, Damascus, Babylon, Alexandria. Now, here's the thing, man. With all of these different medieval depictions of Jerusalem in the middle, do you guys realize that they just got out of the Crusades, right? They were fighting over that quote unquote holy land. But the real people knew that that wasn't the original place of Mount Zion. That's not the original Jerusalem. Because that Jerusalem's in the Middle East, they're putting it pretty much where it belongs according to their maps. According to this map right here, they put Jerusalem in the middle of all these different places, right? They put it in the middle of, Europe, Asia, and Africa, right? So, yeah, that was whatever Jerusalem was made during that time. But that does not mean that that is the location of Mount Zion, the original Mount Zion. The original Mount Zion is located in the same place as the city of Shem, the valley of Shaveh, the headwaters of the Euphrates River, the headwaters of all the rivers, of all four of the rivers in some sort of way. So, listen, it's not the same thing. Now, let's get into some pictures. So, this is a depiction of South America, right? Now, this picture is blurry. I'm going to get to the other picture, actually. Let me get to it real quick. So, this is a better picture of it. Please tell me, why did they name South America Peruvia or Peruvia? Why did they name the whole continent Peru? Why would they do that? I wonder. And when you put IA at the end, it means like land of or something like that. I just looked it up. Oh yeah, here it is. Let me see if I can find it again. And in all these languages, it means ground, place, earth, or the earth. So when you name something Peru Eva, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to call that place? The land of Peru or Uru? We're going to get to it, bro. What does Peru actually mean? We're about to find out. What I want to go to. Oh yeah, we're going to pictures. So this place is called Peru Eva, the land of Peru. This is another depiction of the Americas. Notice how they make South America look, right? Pay attention to that. It looks very peculiar. These are two different maps and they make it look exactly the same. That's not by mistake. Now, look at this, because we just saw this, in the website. This is a depiction of where they put the different lands. You have Africa, you have Asia, and you have Europe. You have the Mediterranean Sea that's splitting between Europe and Africa. You have the Tanais River that's pretty much cutting off Asia, and the Nile that's cutting off Africa. So I guess they're saying that East Africa must be a part of Asia. And West Africa, that's pretty much what they call as Ham's land. It's not what I'm saying, it's what they're saying. But if you're going to go by what they're saying, where certain things are, then aren't you admitting that you come from Ham if you come from West or Sub-Saharan Africa? And doesn't that mean that Europe must be all Japhet? See, we can't take their everything that they say all that seriously. They're going based on their current knowledge base, right? So I don't take it all that seriously. But they are correct that Asia did belong to Shem. Africa did belong to Ham, and parts of Europe did belong to Japheth. Did Western Europe belong to Japheth? I don't think so, because that's not even where many of those places look like before, because of the occurrences of Gondwana. So, anyway, this is a much clearer map. By the way, Europa comes from Yoruba. So, I guess Europe was ruled by the people of West Africa before. But anyway, you can see right there that you have URUsalem, right? It's supposed to be Jerusalem. Right next to the Nile and the Tanais rivers. And right next to the Mediterranean as well. So you have Jerusalem right there. But what's all the way at the end? What is all the way at the end? That is Paradisius, or paradise, right? Okay. This is what it's describing. This is what it's describing right here. The black, that's the map. But paradise is right there. So why would Jerusalem be there, but paradise is over here? Listen, they knew that that wasn't the original Jerusalem. They knew it. There's no way that they did not know that. Now look at this. You have Europe, Asia, and Libya. But over there, you have South America, aka Atlantis. And North America is the surrounding continent. Because I guess they didn't explore it yet. This is from a website. It's called Atlantis, Bolivia. And it's a fantastic website, man. I've shared it before, but I didn't read it. I didn't get into it. Man, that website, that website proves where Atlantis is. And that's not an overstatement or anything, bro. The Atlantis plan, the whole country was said by him to be lofty and precipitous on the side of the sea, but the country immediately about and surrounding the sea was a level plain, itself surrounded by mountains, which descended towards the sea. It was smooth and even and of an oblong shape. And that is literally describing Lake Titicaca and the Altiplano. Quite literally. And of old maps, why would they name this place Atlantis? They did. They have Atlas there, and you have the whole continent called Atlantis. Right? Now, this is a depiction of Atlantis before, but when you flip the picture upside down, why does it look exactly like South America? Looks exactly like it. And this would match regarding where they put North America before, because, they said they didn't know where it was because they didn't explore it yet. Right? Why was Columbus sent to South America to go look for the holy city in Mount Zion? He was sent there. He knew where he was going. He went down the Amazon. He said that the Orinoco must have been one of the 4 rivers that flowed out of paradise. These are all his words. So anyway, Atlantis. Does this look familiar? Does this look familiar? It looks very familiar. You even have the mountains over there. Are those the Andes Mountains? And this is pretty much a map of how, the land next to South America used to look. I'm sure it was actually connected to that land over there, but, you know, we can only get what we can get. So yeah, bro. Now I'm gonna show you exactly why this, or Atlantis was definitely in the Altiplano, in the Andes of South America. And right here you have Atlantis Insular. Let me see, where do I want to go to? Oh yeah, let's go to ATL Nohualt meaning. ATL meaning water. So that's what ATL means. Alt. Or alt. I think that's how you say it. Anti-Suyu. Anti means east. And we've gone over this in the last video. I think we did. I don't remember. But Anti-Suyu is the second smallest of the Suyus. It was located northeast of Cusco in the high Andes. Indeed, it is the root word. It is the root of the word Andes. Anti is likely the origin of the word Andes. So, Anti means Andes, which means east. So the Andes are a reference to it being the east. And now, let's put it together. You have ATL, right? That's water. And T's. Water, east, Antes. And that forms to Atlantis. There you go. Let me see if there's anything I want to read here. I'm trying to remember. Okay. Wow. All praises. I just got led to where I wanted to read. The scientists and technocrats of Atlantis were not jealous of their skills and learning. They acted as industrial missionaries who spread their knowledge all over the known world. They taught the Egyptians and the Mayans how to build pyramids and the Greeks how to construct Atlantis. The sculpted figures of males which support the architraves of temples and other buildings. They spread their knowledge and metallurgy, astronomy, medicine, magnetism, and many other arts and sciences, wherever the ships of Atlantis could sail. They invented reading and writing, mathematics, agriculture, architecture, and all concepts of human civilization. So it does seem, like Atlantis almost was Egypt in a way. Seems like these places were Egypt, because if Egypt was supposed to be the maritime nation of the world, or the first maritime nation of the world, who spread all their culture everywhere, I don't care what they say, Egypt wasn't a maritime. Bro, you find Egyptian things all over the world. How were they not a maritime people? That's nonsense. Right? So, let's continue. It was rumored also that Atlantean scientists expected to discover the mystic force which powers the cosmos, and that when they had harnessed this force, there would be no limit to human achievements. For many centuries, Atlantis was the center of the world. And if you guys don't realize why I keep bringing that up, is because Cusco means navel of the earth. Now, there are many cultures that call themselves the navel of the earth and the center of the earth. But what other cultures fit Peru as much? Or what other cultures fit for Jerusalem and Egypt and all these different places more than it does in South America, particularly in Peru? There is none. There are many different Asian cultures that say that they're the center, and that's because they were colonies of the Israelites. They were colonies of the Atlanteans or the Aryans. right? So it says, thus the Atlanteans embarked upon the conquest of the world. Their ships took exhibitionary forces to Central and South America, where they overwhelmed the Incas, the Aztecs. Like, what are you talking about? How about they were, like, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that. Anyway, let's move on. You're joking, bro. Come on now. Okay. At Kambula, capital of China, 3 squared cities stand one within the other, each with 4 temples and 4 gates that are opened according to the seasons. So that's in China. That sounds very similar to how, Jerusalem would be, right? But here's the thing. China doesn't fit Jerusalem in all ways. It does. It is, it could, but everything doesn't fit, right? Some of the lands of Judah fit in China, but the whole place doesn't fit for Jerusalem. Jerusalem has very particular things or criteria that it has to fit. Very peculiar and particular things that it has to fit. So while that could be a land of Judah, it is not Jerusalem. It is the same thing for many different lands like India, Southeast Asia, East Africa. They can fit some sort of land of Judah, but it's not fitting Jerusalem. It's just not. The holy city, geometric in form, the shrine at its heart, begirt with walls encompassed by barbarian nations. The image has shimmered in the human mind for ages. Probably its best known avatar is the Jerusalem, revealed in apocalypses of Ezekiel and the visionary of John. But there have been countless others, from Prudentius to Blake, to Peking to Versailles. Men have built that city in words or in stone, expressing the human aspiration to realize upon the earth an image of God-like perfection, opposing it to that profane world beyond the wall, where error and corruption prevail and time begins all things to ruin. Looking inward towards inuterability, harmony, innumerable harmony. And outward towards intolerable chaos. The holy city is an image of spiritual tension. Yet those who have invoked it have often sought to dissolve or transcend that tension. In cultures where the sacred and the magical are one, this city is the center of the world. A place marked. Hold on. 1 second. A place marked out from the mundane earth by a divine revelation. A sanctuary where mortals may enter for a moment into the presence of gods. It is the intermediate term in an isomorphic universe, at once the microcosm of the heavens and the macrocosm of man. It is the geometric plan, oriented to the points of the compass, symbolizes the perfection of the cosmos. Its central shrine lifts up the city's chosen one, its priest or king, to the level of the gods. The prophets of Israel built the city out of words. The Middle Ages condensed it into a cathedral. Some societies, more advanced technically and bureaucratically, have been able to realize it as an actual city. So there's been more than one holy city or center of the world or Jerusalem. There are many copies and counterfeits, but this is exactly what they were doing. They've been doing this the whole time. See, they really did look up to King David and King Solomon to the point where they wanted to mimic them. They wanted to be them. You must understand this. These are a nation of hijacks and people who are not a people. So they started LARPing and acting like they were King David and King Solomon, making up their own castles, role playing. You know, they're real weird, bro. You know, they'll start acting like, you know, you be Saul and I'll be David, on some weird homosexual fetishes. You know how the Gentiles get down. Anyway, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share. Okay, so this was, wait, let me see. Well, I don't remember where I found it in the article, but orichalcum is a metal mentioned in several ancient writings, including the story of Atlantis. Orichalcum, what is that? The name is derived from the Greek orichalcos, meaning literally mountain copper, or golden copper, copper tin, copper zinc, or something. They are not really sure. But where does copper come from? We've already discussed it. What was Mesopotamia or Sumer, Sumer, Ria, known for? It's copper. We went over that in the Tigris and Euphrates part of this series. So copper is in great abundance. In fact, the producers of copper all come from Chile, and it's not even close at all. It's not, bro. Chile produces more copper than the rest of the countries 3 times combined. That's not an exaggeration. It produces that much more copper because this is the location, the origin of the copper. This is where orichalcum comes from. This is Atlantis. Again, this is the website. Atlantis, Bolivia. Artifacts found in Bolivia and South America suggest an ancient Sumerian connection. Whilst looking for improved illustrations of the god who emerged from the sea, called in Sumerian legend Oannes, above top left, I came across similar sculptures in the Father Crespi collection in Ecuador, above center and right. Instead of having a fish head aspects, these sculptures portrayed instead an eagle head aspect. Another sculpture in the Father Crespi collection above left is almost identical to a winged bull figure from Assyria, above right. Excuse me. It was said to have been a huge number of similar and unidentifiable artifacts in the Father Crespi collection, including gold sheets with an undecipherable language. But the question of these sculptures in particular is whether they are genuine or of great antiquity, or more recent copies, aka forgeries. I really cannot read this whole article. I'm going to try to get to the important parts. If we look closely at the hand of the winged figure from the place of Sargon of Akkad in Assyria, he appears to be holding something which he has just plucked from a sacred plant or tree, and has sometimes been identified as a fir cone, a sponge, a spathe of a male date palm, or a head of corn or maize. It seems probable that maize was carried from America to Asia by the earliest Sumerian voyagers, but in its new home, where the people were unfamiliar with its proper cultivation and hybridization, it deteriorated and died out. Whereas in America, where the Indians were familiar with the proper care of corn and increased and improved, that should surprise us, because corn or maize was not said to be imported into Europe until after the discovery of Americas by Christopher Columbus in 1492. That tells us that maize was introduced to Spain. No, that tells us that this didn't happen over there. That's what it tells us. but it could have been introduced to them. But anyway, as you can see, all of these different statues, they hold corn in high regard, right? Sargon of Akkad claimed to have been Lord of the Four Quarters. Just like in the Andes, the Incas were Lord of the Four Quarters, thus being the name for the later Incan empire called Tawantinsuyo. It is usually assumed that the four quarters of Sargon were the territories bounding on his Assyrian kingdom, but Sargon also claimed to have made a voyage to the far west to obtain the metal tin. Again, it is usually assumed that he went to Cornwall for his tin, but there were also plentiful supplies in Bolivia, so perhaps when he claimed to be Lord of the Four Quarters of the world, that world did all include Bolivia and South America. Now, I want you guys to pay very close attention to this part, because this is proving. Oh man, let me just read it. Then there is the name of the oldest inhabitants of the Altiplano, who lived in reed houses and built reed boats, just like the Sumerians. They were called the Uru. And in Mesopotamia, one of the oldest or first cities, according to G. Maspero, was also called Uru, later shortened to Ur. That's all I wanted to hear. Let's get to this other part. I'm not going to go over every single little thing. But check this out. A city called URUsalem in the execration text of the Middle Kingdom of Egypt is widely but not universally identified as Jerusalem. Jerusalem was called URUsalem. Right? URUsalem. The name Jerusalem is variously etymologized to mean foundation, to find, to lay cornerstone of the god Shalem. And you see it's Y-R-Y. It is not Juru, it is Y-R-Y, which you can say Uru, right? So if it's U or Y, it's kind of the same sound. It's URUsalem. Now, I got a video I wanted to share before I end the video. Hopefully this plays. God, I love this place, man. Let's play it.
Shape of the city, according to the ancient construction plan, resembles an elongated ear of maize. Locals say that here one can find the best maize in Peru, which
maize or maíz is corn. The best in Peru. In the same area, check this out.
Means that this maize is the best in the world too. However, to find out what Ollantaytambo was built for, one should look high above the city. Over there, raised above the residential area, one can see the main temple. Every morning, the sun appears from behind the mountain in front of the temple and pours its rays onto the sanctuary. In ancient times, the facade of the temple was coated with sheets of gold. Therefore, with the first touch of the sun's rays, the temple began to shine like a real gem. It is here at the very top of Ollantaytambo that one can find the most mysterious thing in this city, the Wall of the Six Monoliths. It consists of 6 monumental columns made from wonderful pink porphyry. It seems that much of what has been built around this majestic altar is just an attempt by pygmy builders to continue the work of unknown giants. The thin layers of stone between the megaliths are amazing. It is as if the stone was soft and just filled the space between the huge monoliths. Yet porphyry is one of the hardest rocks in the world. Who was the genius that designed and created this monument? Who were those giant builders that had such amazing masonry techniques? The memory of mankind preserves the story of Atlantis, whose inhabitants were said to have been able to work with any stone and material.
Bro. Bro, they tell you out their own mouths. They know where this place is, man. Or they're just being real ignorant. There's no, like, come on, bro. Where else is Atlantis? All the, everything connects culturally. Hindu culture connects with South America. Egyptian culture, Sumerian culture. What else? What more do you need? Ancient Chinese, ancient Japanese, ancient Vedic, East African or Ethiopian, quote unquote Middle Eastern, and even Celtic cultures. They all connect with Peru. I'm telling you. Man, oh man. And I love that song, by the way. I love that song. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to read. I think that he's pretty much proving that, Atlantis was pretty, like this, that sunken city was Atlantis. But the island or the place of Atlantis, that's South America. But the city of Atlantis was in Lake Titicaca. It was a city that sunk in Lake Titicaca. But this was Atlantis. And again, they do a lot of research. He has like a few books, bro. I'm not going to be able to go over all of his research and what, an hour long video. Like, I can't do that. So I'm going to leave all these links in the description. Now maybe you guys can now look at this website and do it with a purpose, because I'm pretty damn sure that this is the Atlantis that they were talking about, aka Jerusalem, aka URUsalem. May peace be with you.